But this is the first time we're actually recording it in our kitchen for Film to Table.
Gonna try not to have any kitchen
Oh, whatever.
accidents.
It's fine. Yeah. So we just watched a movie.
It was a movie.
It was a movie. It's a movie we've been putting off.
Yeah, I don't remember why.
I don't know. But we just watched this year's 2025's together. We're a little well, my name's Eli,
Hi, I'm Denise.
and we do this thing that's talking about movies. I feel like we're a little bit in shock, but at the same time,
A
like
little
in a
bit,
good way,
not in a
bad
bad
way.
way. Yeah.
And we're making dinner.
Late dinner because we had a big lunch
Yeah, and then
and
there
we
was a
weren't
time
super
change.
duper hungry, and the dogs were crazy. Um, so it's been a day.
Yep.
Yeah, the daylight savings probably did not help.
Oh man. I guess we should just sort of jump into
Do
like
it.
normally
Do
it's
it.
funny. It's like, oh hey, has there ever been a time that whatever whatever. But I don't want to be like, hey, was there ever a time where you were like just so uh in
Um,
such a sticky situation that you just
ew.
literally couldn't uh yeah, so as per usual, I think movies like this, spoilers, if you haven't seen this movie.
I
Um
mean, it gives it away in the trailer
I mean it
a little
kind of
bit.
does, but at the same time there's a little bit to it. But
Yeah.
um yeah, so
Wait, so before we start, we're in the kitchen. What are you making for dinner?
well, it doesn't necessarily tie into the movie. It's just something that's late night and easy to make, but um I don't know how you actually pronounce the brand.
I think bulldog.
Bulldog.
Bulldog?
So yeah, I'm making some yakisobe or yakisoba.
Yakisoba. Oh, it's a yakisoba flavor.
Yeah,
Okay.
bulldog
That one's spicy too, though, right?
spicy ramen. They're all spicy.
They're all spicy.
If it's got the chicken, it's spicy.
They're angry chicken.
Um, yeah. So,
Wait, ask me what I'm making.
um, what are you making, Denise?
I'm making grilled cheese sandwich.
I kind of see what you're doing. Like you're fusing the cheese and the bread together,
Well, it also just sounded good, to be
and
honest.
then you're gonna fuse that
Yeah,
onto the griddle.
totally.
Um, well, first off, what did you think of the movie? Did you like this movie, or were you not a fan of this movie?
I surprisingly, honestly, liked it more than I thought I would. I'm not a big body horror fan, and I know that's kind of the selling point of this movie for a second there. Um,
Actually, it's kind of funny. I don't know if I really thought this was going to be body horror, other
really?
than,
After all of the promotion that we saw?
well, I mean, to me, like, I don't know if that necessarily means it's body horror when you see like two people's like lips stuck together. Like, I thought maybe it was going to be some sort of like metaphor or
Well, it
whatever.
kind of clued me in when even in the trailer. So this is not a spoiler, but it does hint at a scene where there's a machine. It's a some kind of sawing machine. It doesn't
Oh,
say what it is, but it does show that in the
I don't remember
trailer.
that from the trailer. I
And
don't.
then there was like the insinuation that something pretty gory was gonna happen. So I kind of had a general idea that it was probably gonna be at least a little bit gnarly.
Yeah, but that's just normal gore. That's not like
I mean,
that's not like the fly gore.
I don't know. It's close enough. I feel like maybe
Well,
if it's explicit like that.
sure.
But
Yeah, so I feel like yeah, I'll be honest, like I don't know, like I wanted to see this movie, but at the same time I wasn't like for I don't know whatever reason, it just didn't seem to make it high up on the list of like, oh, we should watch this. It was
yeah,
like, oh, we'll get around to it.
yeah.
And even though I did hear some people like sort of talk about it, I guess there was a little bit of controversy around it, but I didn't really dig too much into that, and I don't know if anything really came of that.
Yeah.
And I guess the controversy being a little bit of like, I guess
Oh,
somebody
like
had either
somebody had a similar
shown
idea,
or had
or
given them the script or was working with them to like produce the idea, because I didn't realize that actually like Brie
Allison Brie,
or Allison Brie and Franco were married.
Dave Franco. Yeah,
Yeah,
they've been together for a minute now, I think.
yeah. I actually didn't know that. And so when I was told like, oh yeah, like it's controversy because apparently they were as a couple like trying to produce it, and then like um, I guess maybe I wouldn't say backed out, but like ended up doing the project on their own or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any like truth to that. I didn't
Sure,
really. I mean, I'm not big. We're not big Hollywood people, so we don't really.
obviously.
Yeah, we don't dig deep into all that sort of stuff. And I've heard other people say like, well, it's not like it's an original idea. Like this has been done before.
Sure.
Um, I don't know maybe the details of the story, but all that aside, whatever. Um, it's funny because I didn't see either of them as like they've been so cast or what do you call it like I wouldn't say pigeon.
Typecast.
They've been typecast in certain roles that I guess um
I mean, they're both pretty well known for comedy more than anything. I
comedy-ish. I
feel
mean,
like,
I
oh
think
yeah,
Alison Brie's done more.
she's some dramatic stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
she was amazing in Glow.
yeah, and so was Franco.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just one of those things though that I was just like, huh, that seems like a. I mean, again, not to be like a Hollywood insider or whatever, but I was like, honestly, I was like, oh, they're married. Like I just
Yeah.
don't see it, but
Huh.
not because of their looks, maybe just more their comedic timing or whatever. But regardless, so seeing them in the movie, it was almost like that's a weird casting. But
Close to Catgate.
it's fine.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know, like, and so I kind of went into it kind of like I don't know if I'm gonna like this, and it seemed a little too artsy initially, but then once the movie
Okay.
kind of got started and kind of got going, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. Um, and I liked the way it was filmed. So it's like a
Yeah.
neon film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those, I think that was like the one group that used to be owned by Alamo or
I forgot about that.
like I think Alamo Films used to be them and they sort of like
Yeah.
merged into
Just
neon.
it's a
Yeah.
theme.
Um, and so they have a particular style, so they're kind of like a poor man's version of like A24 or whatever, but yeah, like the style of the movie, the shooting and everything was actually like pretty good. And I really
Yeah,
liked that.
it looked really good.
I think it added a lot because to be honest, like I don't think there was very much of a deep story there.
Well, it's funny, right? Because it felt a little bit like it was a light version of certain horror subgenres. Like it was almost like intro course into horror about deep
Okay,
dark woods or horror into relationships
sure.
or grief or whatever. Like I think like
Okay, I see
you
what
know
you're
what I
saying.
mean? Like kind of a primer more
Where
than a
A24
deep
goes
dive.
like
Like really fucking balls deep.
yeah, with
Um
like oh, this is about trauma. And then like in the
yeah.
most hardcore of
Like the
ways.
most horrifying, traumatizing way. I
Right.
feel like this one is a little bit more of like an intro into that idea because it has a lot of those elements, but it's still filmed in such a way that it's like super approachable and
Yeah.
not intensely horrifying.
Yeah, you're right.
You
Actually,
know what I mean? Like
the more you describe it that way, the more I can kind of see that because like yeah, it's almost like a
not in a bad way, but it's like easier to swallow.
right. It's funny because I feel like the type of people that they were acting as in the movie is maybe who this movie is kind of geared towards, which is
Totally,
like
totally, totally.
20 somethings that are now like 30 somethings that are like now starting to be like, oh, you know, you should get a real job
Yeah, they got to grow up now.
and yeah, it's time to grow up and stop, you
Yeah.
know, blah blah blah. And it was like I assume they were living in New York or some sort. They kept
I
talking
think
about being
that's
in
being
the
in the
city.
city. I think that's the
The
assumption.
classic trope of like you're going from the city to
The country.
the country, and I think New York has that sort of. New York has that. They have enough like I'd say like vegetation around them that it is
I can
like
see that.
you know, even though it's kind of funny because for I guess if you live in Texas, if you're saying you're going from the city to the country, it's really like I mean it's very different. I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah, 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 totally.
so I think it's kind of the playing off that a little bit of that tropey vibe of like you can see the big tall buildings, and
Right.
then you're like, oh, now you're like in this area that actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And honestly, like if you're only driving a couple hours or like an hour or half an hour or whatever, then I could. I don't know. It just seems a little like whatever. But I guess the point being is like the main story is just um, Allison Brie's character is has gotten a job as I guess a teacher, and they're moving out of the city. And Dave Franco is coming along, even though they are not engaged, and they're not. I mean, they've just been a couple for a long time. It sounds like they were a couple that met in the city, and um, you know, were in the city, kind of came up together, and Franco was I guess like a musician or was a
Yeah,
trying to be a
trying to
musician.
make it trying to make it as a musician.
Yeah, and so there's like I guess it's sort of implied that it's like, well, you need to get a real job, and this chasing the music
Like you
scene.
had your shot
Yeah, and
kind of
it's
deal, but now it's the girl's turn, his partner's turn to
right to
like
like move on.
to try to do what she wants to do instead of kind of waiting around to see what he was going to end up as.
Yeah, and so I feel like it's a very simple premise, but honestly, and this is kind of like where you were saying it's sort of like A24 light in that the awkwardness of a relationship that well, I guess the other thing to add is like he's recently been dealing with some trauma of I guess his parents passing.
Yeah, they don't go into it very much, but it does
It
say
sounds like
that
it was a really bad
really
situation.
traumatizing.
Yeah.
I think it said that like he was the one that found them.
He found his dad.
Yeah, so it was just like a they didn't really do like a deep dive or anything into it, but it does say something about he found them. It was horrible. He's having a hard time dealing with it, and that maybe this move will help him kind of heal and move
Adjust.
on,
Yeah.
adjust, whatever.
Yeah, but it also and it's funny because this is where you were saying sort of the light version of like that is I guess supposed to also be an angle of like oh well there's mental illness in the family,
Right.
but they touch on that stuff really light because they it's funny because there are the times where I'm saying like I just want a story that just kind of moves along, and this movie was like a little over an hour and a half. I think it was like an hour 40, and I like that, but at the same time, um, I don't know if there was enough there. Like it felt almost like
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
it could have just used more substance, I guess. Substance and a little bit more of the character. We get a little bit of it, but I guess the time in the character building just seems a little kind of off or something. But
I think that's why I it felt like more of an intro into
yeah,
quote unquote like modern horror
yeah,
than it's almost like oh they've seen all of these movies and they've talked extensively about these movies and this is what it would be like to make one of those movies.
yeah, and
I
then they
mean,
could have really
instead
gone
of
in.
like going from the ground up
Yeah,
more than anything. Not in a not and not saying that it wasn't successful. Just saying like as a horror fan, it it pushes it
hmm
like it does scratch an itch, but yeah, you kind of leave wanting a little bit more.
yeah, both in like story and like
The characters a little bit
characters. Yeah,
because you're not quite sure if you're really rooting for them or not.
yeah,
And by the end of it, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, by the end of it, you're not quite sure if you're supposed to be happy or glad or relieved that that's how it ended, as opposed to like kind of bummed or horrified
right,
or whatever. It's more like, oh, kind of that's the almost like the Hollywood ending.
sure,
I don't know, like it feels kind of like by the time it takes it to the end, it's almost like, oh, I guess it's fine.
yeah,
Like there's not this lingering kind of horror, I feel like.
yeah. No, 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 you're right, and I feel like that's where it's an interesting take on sort of I don't know if I'd say this genre or whatever, but um, I think it's just kind of interesting because of the whole like you're saying they could have gone really deep with this and they really could have it could have been really really horrific, but in the end it actually was kind of like adorable in the most grotesque sort of not the most grotesque that I've ever seen, but like in a similar way in the substance where in the substance it's really like I mean, there's a lot you can say about the substance, but I think one of the things you can say is like there is like this idea of like, oh, you finally like you've sort of finally found yourself, and even though it's in a horrific monster, it's a little bit of the combination of all the things, right? Where it's like, oh, even though yes, you look like a horrific beast, it's truly you, and it's all the things that you're looking for.
Hooray.
Yeah, even though it's like a mishmash of all the things that, like on the outside, I guess people would see and look at and say like, "Oh, that's terrible." Um, and I feel like this movie has a little bit of that to some degree. Um, but yeah, so like they moved to the country, um, and basically they are still dealing with like relationship, I guess, sort of fallout because we won't spoil too much, but something happens in the first half that is very uncomfortable, very awkward, and sort of sets the tone for the rest of the movie of like, oh, it's going to be kind of one of those situations, and they end up, they do move anyways to the city or to the country, and then sort of she's starting her job and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do.
And it's funny because I made a comment even a couple times, like, why are they together?
Yeah, like
They kind of, I'm not sure that they like each other, but I think it's, it speaks to kind of that point in the relationship where you've just been together for a really long time, and maybe you're feeling kind of stuck or bored, or like thinking what it'd be like.
trapped,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
a
is the
little,
word
yeah,
that's
trapped
used.
is what's used over and over, as if like you're giving up your freedom instead of like moving on to this next phase where it's just different, not worse.
Right.
So they don't they're still where they're not at that phase yet where they are accepting the fact that they're like gonna grow old together. It's more like, where am I in my life, and is this what it's gonna be like?
Yeah.
um
Well, it's funny because at first I was kind of like, wow, they really lean into Dave Franco's character of like it's really on him to sort of figure this out. But as the movie kind of progresses, you start to realize like Allison Brie's character also hasn't really
yeah, they're
like
both they're both kind of annoying to be honest, because it's like, yeah, he's kind of a doofus, but she's also kind of letting it happen to a certain degree and not really confronting it
yeah.
until it's almost like too late.
Well, and it's also kind of funny too in that like maybe people of that age. I mean, we've gone to this as well too, and we're still to some level kind of doing it. Is like um, it's more the it's like the I don't want to say the tried and true of like um, oh, you have to give up your things in order to move on, and that's it's like it's required that when you get older that you do these things or whatever, and like even her character is kind of going through a little bit of that of like, well, I am doing the right thing, right? And her friends are kind of like being like, it's funny because they talk about at the beginning how they have a great support system, but also their support system isn't all that great because it's still people that live in the city and are kind of like, I mean, I have a job, but it's in the city and we didn't move away or whatever. And there's still like something about that young life sort of desire to still have that, but at the same time, like she's doing what she wants to do. Um, and I don't know, you're right. Like they're both kind of annoying to a certain degree, but they're also young people that
Right, right.
they're the young type of people that are they're still trying to figure
They're
out
still figuring
things.
it out. They're not like fully grown up yet, because they
Right.
don't, like, obviously this is kind of her first big deal job, and he hasn't even settled on what he
Right.
wants to do necessarily, other than he wants to be like a rock star. Um so yeah, they're kind of at that point where it's like, is this it, or is there more, or should I be doing
Right.
more, should I be doing something else? And I think like when you're growing up, I think everybody goes through that, especially if
Yeah.
you grew up together, as far as like, is this it, or should I try something else, or should I be happy and content with this, or should I keep find like trying to look for something
Right.
else?
I mean, I feel like in some ways this movie is very metaphorical for that of like, well, you know, you better have your stuff figured out as soon as you turn 18 and da da da. Da. And it's
Right.
like, do
Like,
you
do
have
you
to?
like?
Not really, because they keep bringing up the whole like, well, I'm like, you're like a 35 white year old dude who hasn't, done this or
Yeah.
that or whatever. And it's like putting an age to a lot of stuff does make it like that much harder,
Yeah.
or it sort of it 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 sort of bases the things in a level of reality where it's like, okay, I can kind of see where they're going with this.
Yeah.
And it's very metaphorical of like, now we're doing this, and are we all ready for this next step in our relationship? But clearly they've kind of done it without fully talking it through. And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that is what a lot of young people are kind of going through right now, which is like, well, we're not married, but we're living together. We haven't really talked about marriage, but
Right. Right.
I'm moving on in my career, but
Yeah.
marriage still hasn't been talked about. Not that it's required that you get married. It's just
But
more,
at least like the discussion of it, right?
well, it's still having those relationship discussions
Right.
that are like, they are important whether you want to get married or not, because it's like, if you're going to move to another place and
Yeah.
like your
Yeah. Yeah.
income's
Yeah.
going to change and this and that, like those things have to be discussed. And it doesn't feel like they've done any of
Any of
that
that
in this
work.
movie, and they
Yeah.
made this move. And so they kind of make the move and they're doing their thing, and it seems like they're trying to sort it out.
Yeah.
He's clearly still dealing with a lot of trauma, and
And she's just trying to kind of adjust to this new career that
right,
she's wanted to for so long. It
right.
sounds like.
And yeah, so then the movie just sort of progresses that way, and then they a thing happens, or like a certain event happens that sort of kicks this whole thing off. And then which is in the trailer, which is they are sort of slowly fusing over time, and then it just sort of leads to a very a kind of, I would say, like an art film ending sort of kind of feel. But you know it is what it is. So I guess we can speak a little bit spoilers, so that we can speak a little bit about some of our favorite scenes and some of the things that we actually were some of the things we were actually kind of into. So I guess from this point forward, 100%
Spoilers.
spoilers.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, they go on a hike, and that's where this thing sort of kicks off. It's kind of funny because they go on this hike, and you were asking me, is like, like northeast? I was like, no, this looks like or northwest, like Pacific Northwest. I was like, no, this looks very like northeast, because the trees did not look like big giant pine trees and things like that you would see like in the Portland, Seattle sort of area. So it felt a little bit more like, I forget what that area is, but it's interesting because like there is a lot of, I guess maybe it's like the far, or the where the Appalachian Trail area sort of dissolves into like the New
Mm,
York area or whatever.
yeah.
And so like it is kind of funny because it looks very culty, and then they stumble across like an area that,
Like sure enough.
yeah, sure enough, that looks like, actually that symbol looked very like Zelda.
Oh, I
um
can see that.
One of the Zelda games, I can't remember which one it is, but
Yeah.
so they come across this one area while they're hiking, and then I guess they fall into a cave that had like church pew. Like, you actually picked up on that pretty quick. I didn't actually notice. I thought it
Yeah.
was just junk.
No,
I
so it
didn't
looked like
realize.
they fall through a hole, and it looks like it's been almost like a collapsed in church.
Yeah,
Because yeah, there's broken pews, and there's what looked like it used to be like a bell or a bell tower. And it's, yeah, it's kind of configured into this space that looked like it could have been a church, like a
yeah,
small church, like a chapel. So they fall through, and they end up having to spend the night because they're kind of stuck there. Their phones aren't working, or he loses his phone and hers doesn't get signal. And they
well,
just
there's a
don't.
big storm is
There's a
the
big
big thing.
storm, so that's kind of what kind of kicks this whole thing off. Is they get lost in the woods, they fall through this hole, and then they're stuck there because they can't really.
Well,
They
they could have left, but they were
they
like,
could have
let's wait
left,
out the storm because it's
right?
pretty bad.
Yeah, and instead of like stumbling around in the dark and maybe getting even more lost, they were just gonna wait it out because, incidentally, he had a lighter, so that they could snap off one of the pews into a couple pieces and light themselves a fire, stay warm. They had like the very bare necessities of like, what is it, like hiking gear, and that they had like a blanket and a little bit of water, not enough water, so they had to drink from the mysterious well pit that was there in the church, which, I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Well, and it's funny because I feel like a lot of those moments really do speak to young people, like, not to be like, oh, we're old and wise, because like, no, we've done plenty of fucked up things and things that whatever. But there's like a level of common sense, and it's kind of funny. I was telling you a story about when I was picking up lunch for us yesterday. About, was it yesterday or no, it was today, or whenever I got lunch for us. And I was telling you that little story, which I'm not going to go into, but it was a very like, man, like, how are young people going to like cut it if they don't, like,
Don't speak
kind of
up.
speak up, or fend for themselves, or at least experience things
Like,
that,
are kind of uncomfortable.
yeah. And I think like this, like just that opening sequence where they fall into the cave has tons of metaphors where it's like they grab their phone and it's like, oh, that way's due north, and it's like, well, what do we do
What do
with
we do
that?
that?
And it was like, yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. um you can't just like know that your phone has a compass. Like, you actually have to
Like
know what
where
what is
it,
direction,
like
and
what you need to know.
right,
Yeah.
and which way the sun sets and things like that. But yeah, it's just kind of funny because then there's that, and then there's the whole sequence where it's like, why do you have a lighter? And like, again, clearly they're not talking in a relationship where it's like the stress has gotten to them that he started smoking, and then she had cigarettes because she started smoking. And it's like, again, it's like relationship stuff where it's like, hey, if you're both feeling stressed, like, you should communicate that and things like that. And they're clearly not doing that. Um, and none of that is sort of happening. So you kind of get that vibe through the opening sequence in that cave. But it's kind of funny because the cave is sort of like, clearly there's something weird about it, but then they don't really go deep into it, just enough to be like, there's something weird going on.
Right.
Um,
But like you as an audience, you're obviously already looking around like you guys should know better than this.
right.
I have do horror movies not exist in this universe
Yeah.
because all of the telltale signs are
Well,
there.
no, again, I feel like,
But yeah, like the
while yes,
same.
that's true, I feel like a younger generation's like, well, that's not actually going to
It's
happen.
fine. Yeah.
So like, just not going to do anything about it, or I'm just going to ignore it because, whatever. Um, and so yeah, the movie kind of moves on with her and her job, and she meets somebody at work who's like a coworker, and it's kind of funny because they angle like a kind of like, oh, he's like a good, like a somewhat decent looking guy, and maybe he's maybe interested in her, and she kind
Yeah.
of,
She doesn't discourage it
right,
necessarily.
and she
I
kind of
think
hints at,
she's like a little flattered by the attention.
right, and but yeah, because clearly something's, I mean, clearly the relationship's not going well. Um, and he talks about how like, oh, it's, I'm so glad you took this job, because it's such a small area and there's not a lot of people here and
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And again, not, it's strange because they don't go very deep into the story, but in a way that's kind of fine, and it feels very short story esque in
I
that
can see
way.
that. I can see that.
Um, because things just kind of move along, and um, you know, she sort of reaches out to this guy because he's sort of making an effort to sort of make himself like, trying to bring himself into like the scene a little bit, and it sort of seems like, oh, is he trying to make an angle here? But at the same time, it's like, he mentions how it's a small community, so everybody knows everybody, so it's like, well, maybe not, maybe he's just kind of whatever.
Right.
um and they sort of bring up to him about like, oh yeah, we, this thing happened to us, and it was crazy. And but then that whole sequence was also very awkward because clearly they're like
It's
projecting.
just all of the like unspoken relationship troubles they have. It just like bubbles up
It
in this,
manifests,
yeah,
yeah.
in this dinner that they have with this kind of basically a stranger that she just happens to know from her job because he stops by because he lives down the street. Um, and yeah, while they're having dinner, they essentially kind of start an argument that becomes like very awkward to sit through because it just all kind of a lot of resentment bubbles up.
Well, it's one of those, like, what do you call it, like passive aggressive,
So passive aggressive because it's super
big
non-confrontational, but
big
it like,
smile on their
yeah, and it
faces.
starts as jokes, but then it like kind of goes towards like, oh, he feels trapped, and like why doesn't and what is she supposed to do about it, and like she has a job, and well, why can't like he can only go to the city if she drives him. Well, like, and she goes like, well, why didn't you ever learn how to drive? It's
Yeah.
not like I'm holding you down. So it just becomes this like kind of back and forth, and the guy the guy just kind of sitting there like, anyway, this dinner's great.
Yeah. Uh,
And so it just kind of a lot of that, a lot of like, they seem okay on the surface, but there's obviously a lot of kind of resentment bubbling up on both sides, but they still can't seem to, like, let go of each other. So they haven't broken up, but it's obviously like, and it's funny because, like I said earlier, like, I kept looking at Eli's like, why are they even still
yeah.
together? Because they act like they kind of hate each other in some
They
parts of the movie.
they do, but then also they kind of don't in this weird sort of like
Yeah.
maybe that's just what modern relationships are kind of like for
Well, no, I
younger.
think it's also the statement of like the codependency of it,
Right.
because of like, well, we're just putting up with it because, like, what is the alternative? Like, not be together?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it yeah, and it's funny because as I kind of watched it and maybe just from my work or the types of things I do at work, but also like the type of person that I am, it's like I just kept thinking I was like, man, if you guys would just talk it
Just
out,
talk it
like
out.
it
Yeah,
would
yeah.
this would be fine. And they eventually do, but partly because whatever liquid or whatever they were doing in the church, they are now starting to like, not to go into every specific time it happens, but like over time things are happening. Like they are
Yeah.
literally starting to fuse. And the first time is in the cave where their legs are kind of stuck together, and it's like, oh, it's like mildew
Yeah.
from the cave. Which,
And I was like, what?
yeah, I was like mildew,
What do you
like,
mean?
which is funny because again, it gets brought up later where it's like,
He's like, what? Why would you listen to me? What do I know anything about mildew?
yeah, I don't even know what mildew is. Like, it's a very
There's some really kind of like funny comedic moments in it because it just speaks to how kind of ridiculous it is when we're with one person all the time constantly for like an extended period of time. You just start saying shit to each other that, like, when you really stop to examine it, it's like, wait, what are you saying?
yeah. It's kind of funny because yeah, I it did start to feel more like a short story metaphor.
Yeah.
When it felt like this movie of like I just can't be without you, even
Right.
though I don't
Like I
know if I want to be with
right.
you forever, but
Yeah.
I can't not spend time with you, sort of feeling.
Yeah.
And instead of it being metaphorical, it's actually
It's like
like it's
literal.
literal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I thought that that was kind of like really interesting, because it the way they both play through it, it's not like everything we were talking about or up to this point where they are. It's almost like whatever this thing is, which they never really explain, but I kind of like that part. They don't
Yeah.
really explain exactly what is tying them together, but it's almost like forcing them to work through their relationship problems, even
Right.
though it is like also literally trying to fuse them together.
Right.
And that in itself was very impressive. Like I kind of, as soon as we're done recording here, I kind of want to go watch that Corridor episode on YouTube, the Corridor special effects um,
Breakdown analysis.
breakdown. Yeah, because I'm very curious how they did some of this because this seems like a very low-ish budgeted movie.
It
I
looks
saw I
good
saw that
though.
they filmed the whole thing in 20 days.
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if for whatever VFX and stuff they had to do, I'm sure there
Yeah.
was lots more that to be done there. But yeah, for 20 days to shoot this whole thing,
That's impressive.
that is very impressive.
And that has to speak a little bit to the fact that, the two main actors are married. And that
Yeah,
probably had a lot to do with it. And I that must have been some interesting conversations for them as a couple, like working on a movie like this, kind of exploring the idea of codependency and what that means. Because I know, like, I think a lot of people have felt that to some degree or another with when you're with a person for long enough,
yeah,
and how that kind of informs the rest of your life, the rest of the decisions that you make about your life. Kind of stopping to think of like, how this affects my partner. Do I want my partner in everything that I do? Just all of those questions that you ask yourself when you're in a relationship.
right.
So I think in that sense, it's a really interesting kind of exploration, um, in that angle. I just thought as it's just kind of a funny little. It was almost like a little starter horror movie, in the sense that like it was more about the relationship and the manifestation of the relationship than it is about the horrors of like what it means to be codependent or what it means to have something that physically fuses you to somebody else.
Yeah, it's funny because like some of the things that even they do, and I don't think that necessarily is like speaks bad to us or anybody in relationship, but like during the movie they make it a point to be like, hey, I'm going to bed, you should go to bed too.
Right.
And there's not like that. It's almost like we go to bed together
Yeah, yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing, right? And it's like, while yes, you and I do, um,
We're different.
we're different. No, but I feel like that's like, it's like, I think partly because our schedules, right? Like
Sure.
it's like we both kind of get up around the same time. You usually have to get up earlier than me, but then there will be times where if I look at my work schedule and I know I don't have like a 8:45 meeting that I have to be in on, that I may be like, I'm going to stay up a little bit later because I'm working on a little project,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I might stay up for another hour or two in my office, like working. But usually we will communicate that if that's the case, But it's like, it's funny because in the movie, it doesn't really necessarily feel that. Like, it's more like, hey, I'm going to bed, so you need to come to bed.
Right.
Like, and then, and I say that because later in the movie, when there's a sequence where she's in bed before him, it almost feels like this
Like
betrayal
yeah, like he's
of,
disappointed
yeah,
instead of trying to think of like, oh, maybe she's tired or maybe she needs to get up early the next day
right.
or whatever. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of echoes of like how it does feel to be in a real relationship when it's kind of teetering on that edge of like slightly unhealthy,
Right.
but you still want to make it work.
Right.
Um, and you're starting to become conscious of the fact that it might be unhealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I felt like now that we're talking about it, and more than when we were watching it, because I guess I was waiting for certain beats to sort of drop.
Yeah.
It's one of those like what was they were there's a couple of movies that we have watched where like you read like an essay on like what I think this movie is
Hmm.
trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is one of those films where I kind of wish I had known a little bit of that, because it would just kind of make it interesting. But in retrospect, like it does make me want to watch it again, because there are things I want to kind of look at more from like how codependent relationships work, and things like that, because of what they're trying to say in the movie and how it
Yeah.
sort of works. Because I guess maybe both of us being very horror people, I was like waiting for the turn. I mean, which
Yeah,
we can kind
yeah.
of get into a little bit, because
Yeah.
I will say, and it's funny that you just like, you were like, I don't know, like Luka Doncic, where you just shot the ball from half court, and you were like, I totally got it. Like I totally nailed it.
What?
Um,
Which part? I
the
didn't.
the the teacher at work, the
Oh, oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was like, okay, so is this an alien creature?
Yeah.
Because they drink water that they share together, and
Like from the creepy well.
yeah, and there's a thing that happens in the beginning that we won't spoil, but there's a thing that happens in the beginning, and it's sort of like
Hmm.
it sets the fuse of like, okay, this is where this is going, because they share the water later, and so by doing that, we clearly know that something's going to happen. And I actually didn't pick up on the, like, it's funny because the way I read it was alien esque, because the cave itself had a very like Giger sort of look to it, which I thought was really
Yes. Yeah.
cool. But I didn't pick up on any of the other stuff until you were the one that was like, oh, totally like a cult, or totally like a church, or totally like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cthulhu or something or
Yeah.
other kind of like moment. And I
Yeah.
didn't pick up on any of that.
I think I was kind of, to be fair, I think I was kind of looking for it because of the fact that I remember the trailers.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I didn't see any of that or really think about that at
well,
all
I
in the
was kind
trailers.
of, I was kind of looking because I figured if it had something to do with body horror, it immediately ties me back to like, oh, it has to be at least in part like Lovecraftian or, Eldritch horror or something like that. Because that's what it feels like the natural for me.
Sure.
You talk about body horror and you talk about something like that. I feel like that feels like a natural assumption. So I was kind of looking for those cues already. And I think that's why the other reason why I say this, it feels like kind of this movie feels a little bit baby steps into horror because it doesn't lean super hard into the eldritch stuff except for some of like the like the monster effects.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of surface level, I
Hmm.
guess I gotta say, kind of glossy still, but not that deep foreboding, like doom that you would get from like eldritch horror.
Yeah.
It's still very much like a almost like a quaint little personal story
Yeah.
instead of this universal sign of destruction.
Well, I mean, because you had picked up pretty quick that it's like, man, something's off with this neighbor guy or
Yeah,
this well, I guess he's neighbor, but also he like works with
the
her,
coworker. Yeah,
and I don't know.
I
It's
think it's because he made me think of Keith from the Righteous Gemstones. A little bit. He was kind of
I
giving
could see
me,
that
yeah,
he did have kind of Keith vibes.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, like it's funny because even though it was sort of like, oh, like maybe he's trying to move in on Allison Brie's character or whatever. Um, it is funny because like almost like, and I think it was purposely done where it's like, I don't know, he kind of seems like one of those closeted gay type
sure.
teachers. And I don't know if that was just the way that he was dressed or the way they kind of just gave him this
Interesting.
persona.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so when she goes over to the house and she sees a picture of two guys together,
Uh huh.
like then it's kind of like, oh, there's sort of an insinuation.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get to talking, and then sure enough, like, oh, it's like he makes it clear that like he had a similar situation as her and her troubled relationships, but she says with a he,
Yeah.
or he says with a he, and so you're like, oh, okay,
So he's not hitting on her.
he's not hitting on her.
Right, right.
He's just, I don't know, like,
He's just very empathetic.
yeah,
He's just very, he just wants to help her out,
right. But
etc.
it
Yeah.
felt like you were like something's weird with that guy, and
Yeah.
then sure enough, it was like very, it was very, it was very, um, like you were like, there's something wrong there. Um, it was empty.
Okay.
And you were like, it's a cult or it's some sort of like cultish sort of thing. And sure enough, it ended up being sort of some sort of cultish sort of thing. And I actually really liked when that reveal kind of happened because,
Uh-huh.
and I guess we're just reaching that age where like anytime anything is recorded on VCR or like is played on a VCR and is recorded on VHS, it just adds an extra layer of creepy,
You
like,
mean that ancient technology?
right, exactly. That like people will never understand. But like what was Bring Her Back had a sequence in
Oh,
that as
that's
well
true.
too.
That's true with the cult, yeah.
Yeah, and so seeing like cultish things being recorded on VHS is kind of cool, and
Yeah.
you get that reveal like towards the back end of the movie, and I really liked it that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I feel like we don't have enough like evil cult the same way that
A
like
100%.
in Weapons we don't get enough like
Yeah.
evil witches.
Right, right.
And so when that sort of reveal happened, I was like, oh, that's actually I like that. That's
Yeah.
actually kind of cool. Sort of ties all this together, but
It also felt like a more natural kind of exposition drop as far as oh yeah, it definitely is some kind of cult. Like the fact that it loops back in again, spoiler, the fact that it was like a wedding ceremony. And then like so it felt kind of what is it? What is the word I'm thinking of? It felt very harmless initially when she
oh, okay.
kind of walks into the into the room where the video is playing. It's like, oh, somebody's getting married. That can't be too bad. And then starting with like the telltale signs of like, oh shit, this is pretty
It's a
fucked up.
ritual. Yeah, it's
Right.
not really. I
It.
mean, sure, it is a union,
Yeah.
like in the sense of a
Right.
wedding.
But then literally
It's literally
a
like a
union.
union. And
uh.
so I thought that was like I really liked that. I thought that was
Yeah.
super cool. And so I guess my understanding then is that 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 character, the coworker, is two people in one.
Yes.
I
Yes.
because like so they kind of get into a tussle and
Mm-hmm.
she kind of starts to get away, but um jabs him or something, and so like as she's running away from him, it looks like it's
Like his head splits a
like
little bit.
fusing. Yeah, it's like
Like
unfusing,
un-
but then it's refusing or something.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I think the insinuation of the cult of like being in the cult is that I guess if you're soulmates that you literally fuse back together
yeah,
because this legend that they believe from like the ancient Greeks about how when man was created, they actually had four arms and four legs and a head with two faces, and then but Jupiter, is it Jupiter? Yeah, Jupiter got mad about it, and he kind of got how he would get, just salty for no reason. He like split people in half because he was like, okay, no, that's fine. They're less of a threat to my power if they were split in half. And now they have this whole mission to find the other half of themselves instead of trying to get power from the gods. So that was kind of the lore behind the cult.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because it's kind of like, I guess, like if in a similar way that I think younger people are kind of like, oh well, uh, what is it? Saturn is aligned with like the planet or whatever, and so it's very like spiritual. And I mean, not to say that maybe, I don't know, maybe there is shit tied to that. I don't know, but it's funny because the way he sort of says it, in a way, it's like, well, that's what we had to do to be perfect together.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's almost like this very like, I mean, I guess like a relationship, even though like when you die, like your body dies alone.
Right.
But I guess like the bond of two people like is broken because like you're heartbroken if your partner
Sure,
dies
sure,
when you get
sure.
old. And
Yeah.
there's always like, oh, and then like the wife died like 2 days later because her heart was broken and she
Yeah.
just couldn't deal with it. And and if that's kind of like where they were kind of coming from, like it's kind of romantic in a way,
Right, right.
but
Totally, totally.
very grotesque in
Yeah.
in another way because
Well, I know that that particular myth or legend actually was. I don't know if you remember when we watched Hedwig and the
uh
Angry Inch. That was what one of the songs was about because the character is like looking for love, and that was kind of the whole idea. So in that particular song, it was very kind of yearning of like wanting to belong to somebody. And in this particular movie, it kind of gets twisted into like, is that really what you want?
yeah.
Because that sounds gross.
Well, but at the same time, right, it's like a relationship thing, right, where it's
Oh,
like maybe
totally.
you do want that, but you just have to commit to it. You can't just
That's
like,
true. You can't be like half-ass and be like, I guess that's fine.
yeah, because then you're gonna have one leg sticking out of the other person's body because you're not fully committing
Right,
to this
right.
relationship.
You gotta be all in on being like super
Yeah,
unhealthy in your
you you
relationship.
walk together,
Right, right.
but like
But you gotta know, right?
right,
Eyes open and everything.
you can't have your own two separate paths because then your body will rip apart.
Right, right.
Um,
But as long as you're both on the same page, then it's fine.
yeah. So in a very strange way, right? It's very like
Like maybe it
romantic.
is like healthy in its own weird way.
Yeah.
As long as they're both committed to that same path, then like what who are we to say that it's
and
bad,
and
good
and
or
for all
bad?
you know, because that well, it's not an insinuation. It actually is that the character that she her coworker. I mean, he's gay
Right.
because he wants to be with another man. It almost seems like it could be very like it could be very. I mean, much like Hedwig, where it could be like I like this world, or at least like this. Christian values in this country won't allow for two men to be married together, but if we become one, then we are
Then
like
that's it.
we are. That's all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
really
yeah.
matters, right? Like our
Right.
love is so like absolute that we literally are one person, and so they've taken the form of I guess. Well, and that's what's interesting because they showed the photo
Hmm.
of them. They look different,
Very different. Right, right.
but this is what the combination of the two of them
Exactly.
together.
Exactly.
And so I don't know. I don't know if we should spoil the ending. I mean, I don't know if it's like a huge spoiler at this point,
I
but
don't know. I kind of don't want to.
the only thing I will say is apparently in China it had a different ending because they would not
Oh.
allow for that particular ending. And
Huh.
apparently like Neon was super pissed about it because they were like, "What the fuck?" Because
Like.
they had to edit it, or it was edited without their sort of knowledge
Uh-huh.
when the door opens at the very
Oh,
end.
that's a bummer.
Yeah, that
Oh,
it
that's such a bummer.
yeah, and I'll
I
tell
would
you,
hate that.
I'll tell you what it was
Yeah.
based on what I read, but yeah, it's funny because the more we talk about it, I thought this movie was okay,
Yeah.
but now that we've talked through it,
Yeah.
I actually liked it a lot more because this can be one of those movies where I'm gonna think about it
Yeah, right.
a little bit more as time sort of goes on.
I think it's just it had I think because as a horror movie, it was like kind of meh. But it had some pretty like, effective visuals. It had some effective moments. But like the seed of the idea, I
Hmm.
think was really like maybe
Yes,
the most effective out of it. Because it literally is all it is like an exploration of what it is to be in a relationship that may or may not be working.
right.
Um, and
Or
I
that
think
you're ready to take the next steps, but nobody wants to acknowledge that.
right. And you don't quite know what to do next.
Yeah, because
Um,
how he saves her at the end
right.
is like committing to
Yeah.
because he could have just let her die.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that because, yeah, you're right now that I'm thinking about it. Because, like, she makes a comment earlier on, like, just make a decision. Like, I can't make all your decisions for
Right.
you.
I'm not your
Which
mom.
is, like, yeah, one of the most, like,
Oh
honestly,
man,
one of the
that's
most brutal takedowns I feel like I've heard. I
yeah.
probably, since, I would say since Hereditary, maybe.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
just how awful what she says is. But I think that also goes to show, like, the people that know you the best, that love you the best,
Right.
they know how to hurt you the worst.
Yeah.
And I think that's so potent in that one scene because she knew exactly like where to stab,
Right.
and she fucking does it because she's so hurt and she's so fed up. And I that was that was such a great and awful moment that
Right.
I just actually like I gasped because I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe she just
Yeah.
said
Even if
that's
this
like
is
the
a movie,
worst thing I've ever heard.
and I think the fact that they are married.
Or not married.
No. I'm saying in real life,
Oh, in real life.
actually allowed like that to
Oh, a
come off
hundred
like
percent.
100%
I would
authentic.
not be surprised if like that was their idea. You know what I mean? Like even if they didn't write the script or have anything to do with the script, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, you know what what she should say.
Right.
That would be super fucked
Because
up. It
this
should be
is yeah.
this
Because
because
it
she would absolutely like if you were pissed enough and you were in the right mindset and you draw that first knife,
yeah.
like you use it,
That's
right?
enough. That I feel like that would be enough to literally be like, you know what, you get a room somewhere else tonight.
Fuck out
Like,
of here. Yeah,
yeah, for tonight
absolutely.
because you kind of crossed the line. Because
Absolutely.
though what she said there, yeah, absolutely, you're right.
That was so shocking to me. I'm like, I cannot believe that they even thought to write that in the
Yeah,
script. It was so effective. It was so great,
yeah. And
actually.
if you, I mean, again, not to give away that sequence, but I'm pretty sure you'll know what sequence that is. I think it's when she's on her way to go see,
She
or
wants,
she's going to go get the keys
right.
to the car
She,
from the neighbor that she left the keys at.
right. She thinks she forgot her keys at the neighbor's house. So she's running to get it because she wants to get help because they just had like this traumatic thing happen to them. So she wants to go get the keys so she can drive into town, drive both of them into town to get help at the hospital.
Hmm.
And so she's stressed and she's in pain and she's frustrated because he won't listen to her.
Yeah,
And
and she
so she
lets it.
says
She lets it rip.
this horrible thing, and I'm just like, "Ah, I cannot believe that wouldn't. I don't know. The fact that she said it, it was so shocking to me that I'm hoping that means I'm a good person because like that would never even cross my mind to say that because
I mean, I would have to
it was
really
so
push your
like
buttons to do that, but
really
even
dig
like
deep. But
I would have
that's
to work
still,
really hard
oh
to push your
man,
buttons
like
to get to that
literally
level.
just become a Nazi at some
Yeah,
point for me to be able to think to say something so
yeah.
horrible.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I think like in that sense, I thought it was but it was such an interesting symbol, right? Of like I was saying, like if you were in a relationship, you know everything about each other, and you know like all the stuff that traumatizes each
Yeah,
other, and if that's the weapon that you use, then it's gonna hurt the worst.
yep, yep. Um, yeah. No, I think this one. I when the movie was over, I added it to my list of. I tagged it in Letterbox of like, yeah, that's actually one that I feel will have to be discussed again at the end of the year, which we're kind of near. Um,
Wild.
yep,
Yeah.
we've already flipped the calendar.
Yeah.
But because it's film to table, we have to do the second part of this. And it's funny because I think I already know what I would do for this one. Um, so, what would we pair this movie with? My thought, um, and it's not has nothing to do with what I ate for dinner tonight. the noodles that I was snacking on while we were talking
Is it
here.
spicy? It's pretty spicy.
It is pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Doesn't help
It
that
always like smells so good, but I can never take the
the flavor on
spice
that is
level.
always really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I can handle that
It's a
heat.
little intense.
Yeah. Um, but I will say the thing that I would pair this movie with would be some extra crunchy
Mm.
Korean
Oh.
Korean fried chicken, but with like the honey glaze
Oh,
that's super sticky because
yeah.
the wings are all starting to stick together.
Yeah.
And then when you put it in rice, like the rice sticks to it.
Yeah.
And so it just starts to become one. It is fusing and like a perfect marriage between rice and
And chicken.
crunchiness
Hmm.
and chicken with a high glaze.
Oh, I love a Korean
Um,
fried chicken.
and I feel like it's funny because uh, the first time that they start getting fused, that's exactly what I was thinking because I was like, bro, that is not mildew. But you're telling me you haven't had
Like
like a glaze that's like
yeah.
super sticky with like whether it be Chinese food or like
Ooh.
something that has that
Like honey barbecue, anything, right?
right. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of like, dude, like you have
You haven't
experienced
had like
nothing.
baby back ribs or
And it's
anything.
funny because you say when like you were saying like they're both like very I don't want to say unlikable, but they are definitely not likable. But they're also younger than us, so it almost felt like generational to a degree, and I
Maybe,
didn't want
maybe.
it to be that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to kind of be like, "What have you never like? Oh my god!" Like and they even kind of joked, that the joke with like that way is north, and I was like, "You don't even know where you started. Like, what does that
Which
even
I
matter?"
thought, just on a personal note, was just so funny to me because on our first trip, as a big trip as a couple, we went to Chicago.
Oh, that's right.
And this was before like iPhones were a huge thing. So this was like ancient times to most of the younger people. But we had what was you had a BlackBerry, right?
No,
And
I mean,
or
I
it
don't know, I
was
had like a
it,
flip
it
phone.
was 100% before iPhones
Yeah,
though.
I would have had like a
Um,
razor or something like that, like
yeah,
or whatever one step above whatever the razor
right.
was,
So we
or it was
were
an early generation iPhone
right,
without
which
GPS
yeah,
on it.
without the GPS. So we were wandering around Chicago. We had our like little tourist map, and Eli had like a honest to God like compass, and he we would just navigate the city with a map and a compass like we were Boy Scouts. And I was like, and it's funny because I think that was kind of our first big test as a relationship, whether we could stand each other on a big trip or not, because that was such like I'm a planner. When we go on a trip, I like to plan, and you're more of just
Broad
yeah,
strokes.
shoot from the hip. Whatever sounds good today, then that
Well,
we'll do that.
I shoot
A
from the
little
hip,
bit.
but I know what direction I'm shooting
Well, that's kind
towards.
of what I was getting at. Like you had a basic idea of like the areas you wanted to go to, whereas for me, it took a lot in me to not be like, okay, at 1 o'clock we'll do this, at 3 o'clock we'll do that, 5 o'clock we'll do this. I wanted to be like, okay, I'll be cool, I'll be cool, I'll be cool because I want this trip to work and I want us to have fun. So I'm gonna let go of that a little bit. And then by the time I look over to you, you have a compass and a map, and I'm like, what is this? And I don't know that I've ever met anybody that's actually used a compass. So I thought that was so funny to me. That was so interesting because otherwise, you landmarks or actual maps of streets, but you actually were like looking at like, okay, okay, we're pointing. That's pointing north, so we want to go this way if we want to get to a certain part of the city. And I'm like, who are you? What is this?
I mean,
But it worked, so
yeah,
I can't be mad about
right.
it.
I mean, we had a good time, and
Yeah,
I
no,
guess
it
we
was super
didn't
fun.
argue or
I mean, it was fine enough that now we're married. Like
right. Yeah, it's
fifth,
true. I
yeah,
guess it's true.
you know,
We are now
15
one.
years later,
Yeah, we have
we
fused.
we have fused entirely.
But to be fair, and I will say for any of my friends who live in the Chicago area or that are listening to this, I mean, they will tell you like the city's on a grid.
And oh,
Like
great, yeah, it's not that hard.
it's not that hard. You do need to know which way north is,
Right.
and once you go from there, it's like you just need to know how many streets down, whatever, blah blah blah. But again, I guess maybe a little bit credit to me. There's still like a matter of
Oh, totally.
like if we're because I think the one thing we did do is like we just sort of wherever the day took us, that's where we ended up going, and then
Yeah.
it's like okay, where are we relative to anywhere else, and then I'd have to figure out how to navigate us out. And we never got lost.
No, we never. Well, I mean, at the same time, it's like
We had no
we had
actual
no
like
hard line itinerary
right.
either. We just kind of wandered and we found some cool stuff,
Yeah.
and that was most of our trip. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
and now we are one, as you say.
Right. So how are you going to fuse that conversation into what you're going to pick to pair with this movie?
Um, so I guess a couple of different things I'm thinking of good because we're in the kitchen. So obviously I made it, and it was partially because I was a little peckish for something, um, but also because it made me think of the movie. It was a grilled cheese sandwich because of the cheese pull,
Yeah.
obviously. And the other thing that's sitting in our fridge that we still haven't finished yet is chili that I made last week.
Oh.
So it made me think of that because, like, once you dump everything in, and I don't care. I know people will go on and on about Texas chili should just be meat.
But you weren't making Texas chili. You were just
Whatever. I
making
was just
like
making
fall
chili.
chili.
I don't
Like
care.
it's
Yeah.
cold or it's getting well,
Yeah.
cold for Texas.
Right.
Like it was like, "Oh my god,
Right.
it's 60 it's
60
62
degrees. It's
degrees."
time to bust out the stew.
Yeah.
Um,
Bring out the long pants.
yeah, so I made chili on the first day that it was kind of chilly. Oh, haha. But it makes me think a little bit of that movie because chili, you put it all together, doesn't look like much, it doesn't look great, but
Yeah.
you eat it and it tastes good.
But you
'Cause
got to do it as one and not like separate out.
right, it's
Like it's not
not
like a
you
like
can't
a
deconstruct it basically.
yeah, it's not like
You
like
eat it
a
as one.
it's not like let me think like arroz con pollo where it's like
Right.
oh well if I
You
just want the
can
chicken I'll just
right.
take out the chicken eat it
Yeah.
like and I'll get some rice with it but like
Right, or even
literally
like pasta, like oh, maybe you can leave the sauce on the side or whatever.
right
Meatballs on you can add that on
yeah
later. Whereas chili is like it's
you
chili.
can't take out just the
It's like
beans and be like oh I just want to eat the beans or I want to eat just the meat
right.
it's like no
It's
it's
all
all
in there.
there
It's all together.
yeah
And I make pretty good chili. And I've made like vegetarian chili
hmm
and like regular chili. So makes me think a little bit of that movie because also also is not very pretty to look at when you fuse everything together,
right
but it works.
yeah it's like a lot of relationships they're not good to look at but
Gives you
hey they work
gas. Yeah.
like oh yeah I guess they do give you gas as well too well the only other one thing that I was going to kind of throw to you before I
Mhm.
guess we sign off here was I'm kind of surprised you didn't say anything with the mango sticky rice
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because that's kind of a pretty thing
It is. It is a pretty. I do love a mango sticky rice. To be honest,
um,
I'll get it any chance I get.
right and that's why I
Um,
was
and it's funny because I try to make it, and it's never ever quite as good as just getting it from a restaurant. So we just always do that.
well it's like
Um,
seeing somebody else's relationship you're always like oh they always have it better but then
yeah.
it's like do they though like
Hmm.
it's really about
Is it?
like
It's
yeah
all. It's all pretty on Instagram or whatever. But
right it's all about
everybody does deal with the different kind of shit that everybody else goes through. So,
yeah
you know, who was it that was telling us one time that they ordered mango sticky rice, and they ordered it for takeout, so they didn't look at it. But by the time they got home, they opened it up and they're like, "What the hell?" Because I guess the restaurant had ran out of mango or it wasn't in season or something, and they just put blueberries on it instead. And they were like, "What
blueberries
the hell?" That's
that's
like
not
the
even
least
like
mango thing you can put on there.
that's like telling somebody you're going to go to a basketball game and then you show up at a like at a cricket game like
Not even
it's not
close.
even in the same vicinity
It's it's on the same
you
continent.
can't be like oh well, it's all sports and it's like no
Well,
you said you were going to take me to a basketball game this is
what
fucking
is this?
cricket I have no idea what's going on um well I feel like we picked some good pairings with this. I would probably recommend like if you were doing a buffet and watching this movie with friends, like you could do like a chicken with a very glazy, sticky sauce
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
chili, I think would go good, even
yeah.
though like um I don't know. I don't know if you would use Fritos. I think you would have to put it like in
Mm.
a single like corn like tortilla that's like actually crisped up to be one
Oh,
piece
that sounds good. Yeah.
because you got to stick with the one piece like everything together
Right.
and
Right.
the
Like one of those taco salad shells.
yeah, in order, and that's kind of like that's like the house
Right,
or
right.
something. I don't
Totally.
know, whatever. Thankfully, they didn't have pets because man, that would have made for a
You know, I
very
kept thinking
terrible
that
situation.
throughout the movie. I'm like, what kind of like young couple when they move out to the country, they don't even have a dog or a cat.
I mean, to be fair, they had only been there for like a week,
That's
so
true.
they
That's
hadn't
true.
really
I think
settled in
just in
yet.
general, I have a hard time trusting people that don't have pets.
Yeah,
I think just because we have so many
right.
and they're always everywhere in our
Yeah,
faces.
they are like literally part of us now, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're post Halloween now, and
Boo.
yeah, um, there's a few more movies that I think we should try to see if we can squeeze in before the year's over, and then we'll have to do our year end sort of discussion, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to because there are a lot of surprise sort of movies on here, and I was
Mm.
uh, Friday night or this, I guess like Halloween night, I guess I should say, I did the whole Joe Bob from dusk to dawn
Mm-hmm.
marathon, and I got to chat with some friends and um, our friends from Laredo. I got to talk to them, and Andrew, who I was talking to at the Joe Bob event, said that he really liked this movie together. And that's partly why I was like, oh, that's another one I need to watch because we were
Yeah.
talking about other movies and we talked about Ugly Stepsister and we talked about like Sinners and everything else that's kind of been out.
It's
But
been a
like,
solid year.
yeah, it really
Yeah.
has. And I'm glad we got this one in under the radar, and it
Yeah.
wasn't one that we end up watching next year and then be like, oh, that would
Right.
have been one that we should
That
have.
would have been, yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, I'm kind of I don't know what's left on the plate for the rest of the year. I know there's a couple things that we need to watch, but we'll see how it goes. There's also a lot of television and stuff that we are behind
Way
on,
behind on.
but yeah, I guess if you like our food recommendations or have recommendations for us because we should have picked something else,
Yes, we're always hungry.
yeah, you can email us at topshelfvideopodcast@gmail.com. I still get all that email, so maybe I should get one for film the table at
Mm.
gmail. Now that I'm saying it, I'm going to look for that right after we're done here. But yeah, you can also follow us on Instagram, all that jazz. That's the only social media we have, Instagram, because everything else is terrible.
Is
But if you go to topshelfvideo.com, then you can also find the audio for these as well. But yeah, I think we need to clean up the kitchen literally because we're in the kitchen.
yeah.
But as we always say, we should um, buy or make sure to tip your wait staff.
And
Okay, one more time.
get what is it? I don't remember.
One more time. We're gonna try it again.
Okay. I
Okay.
have it. I
All
have it.
right. And as we always say every week, whenever we do this, make sure to tape tape your wait.
Take the waitress.
Yeah, tape the wait staff. No, make sure you tip the wait staff, and
And send your compliments to the chef.
that's not.
That's not it.
No.
I lost it. Well, that's what it is now because I like that.
Okay. All right. I guess the staff will just have the kitchen staff will just not have drinks, but that's okay. All right.
They don't need to be drinking anymore.
Love you.
Love you too.
I love you together.
Oh no, it's too much.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.